Howdy y'all, it's Cody from the Cooper's Nerdum. How you doing? Let's just talk a little bit about Warhammer 40k and the kind of state of things at the moment. We are in this awkward waiting phase for the Tau codex to be legal and playable and finding out what the point values are. And we've just got the reveal of the Orcs codex and Custodes codex legally revealed on, was it Saturday? Fully? Yeah. And now we're going to be waiting for them for their points. And obviously, with at least the Custodes, everything was pretty rough, pretty weird. But it's an interesting thing of why is there a public release date of a codex if it doesn't go live that day? What is GW doing if it doesn't actually go live on the day it goes live? And my understanding with like the Tau codex is it's not technically live yet because there's not another way to get it except through the Crute box for the codex. Totally understand that, but then at the same time, don't understand it because why isn't it available on its own so people can actually get a hold of this codex and start using it? So we're in this weird holding pattern and things are just stuck. Yeah, I want to try the Tau in the new version, but I don't know what the points actually are, so there's no point in even trying to use the new stuff. I want to play against my friend with his Custodes, but he doesn't even know if he wants to play with them right now because he doesn't know what the point costs are because the codex has come out and it's been terrible and a major or pretty serious downgrade to survivability compared to where it was. So unless the points are different and go down lower, it's not going to be a very viable team, and even then it's going to still be, easier hit, but more bodies on the field would actually help it still play well. Kind of interesting to think about like those issues. And right now we're just in this weird holding pattern. 40k, when you pay attention to some of the things that are winning, it actually sounds like it's a pretty good mix of all over the place factions, which is really interesting, and that's actually a pretty healthy state. And it sounds like just if we were to just pause right now with just the indexes as they are and no more new codexes, none of these ones that are supposedly coming out but aren't out, and just played with where we are with some slight adjustments to the things at the very top and some things at the very bottom, because I think we would be in a really amazing state. Because side note, the Necrons won a pretty big thing, and they actually used Canoptic Court, which I was really happy with. But obviously the Catans were a pretty big centerpiece, even though they don't directly get the benefits of the Canoptic Court itself. Really interesting. And I was expecting, because Hypercrypt Legion's usually the one that's there, and then occasionally Canoptic Court, so it's kind of neat to see that. But it does feel like, for the most part, if they adjusted Hypercrypt Legion, we wouldn't have the issues that we do. Kind of weird. Just kind of weird. Like, if they adjusted the Hypercrypt Legion and maybe some points on the Catans just a little bit, maybe the Wraiths, we'd not be at the very top spot or close to it, right, with the Eldari and the Custodes before their codex goes live. And it's a weird spot. It really is, this game. And there comes a point where you go, okay, change is a good thing, but too much change too fast is not good, especially if they don't do it well. And I mean, you think back to Warhammer 40k 10th edition when it launched. Did everything launch balanced? No, but everything launched at the same time, so everybody was playing with the new rules at the same time and had previews for weeks of what was coming, so there was at least some idea of how things would function. And we were all kind of on this same page of discovery and excitement. And now it's this piecemeal thing that is coming out, but not coming out, but it'll come out eventually. And then when it does, it may or may not be really, really good, or really, really just bad. Or it might be so broken it doesn't even make sense. Or it might be so bad it can't even function like the Adeptus Mechanicus. Or it can just be kind of in the middle and everything's fine. You're like, okay, somebody was actually designing this with some thought in mind, and then the rest just doesn't make sense. But then, it's that question of where's the playtesting? The state of Warhammer 40k is in such a bizarre state at the moment, and it's kind of sad to see that it's not consistent in any way with what it should be. So, what do you think about the state of Warhammer 40k at the moment? Are you excited with what's coming out? Does every codex release kind of just make you nervous at this point? Because it seems like it either goes really, really badly or it goes amazing to the point of there's 1 or 2 detachments inside of a codex that just everybody goes, yep, that's the one, that's the thing to use, and the rest are garbage and not worth touching again. And it's such a strange spot to be that here's all these options, but they're actually not really options at all if you want to play, obviously, in the competitive scene competitively. But beyond that, could you try stuff on the tabletop at home? Well, you can, but it also depends on your opponent. Depends on what you have that you're facing against. If they're going to play a really strong faction with the top tier version of their stuff, trying out one of your detachments that's weaker is probably going to result in a pretty rough game. That's going to be pretty frustrating when things just don't click. And for example, the Custodians just recently with the Nuln Sisters or whatever it is detachment, there's just no good way to justify using it and having that very many Sisters of Silence on the board for their bonuses, because it wouldn't do much of anything anyway. It's just weird. It's super weird. You just get stomped into the ground even by just a pretty average army because nothing works well enough in that detachment. So it's like, is this really even an option? No, not really. Unless you're just both saying, you know what, both play our worst possible factions, good luck. That would be kind of fun, actually. Now I want to try something like that. Both just play the worst possible faction, but that's also assuming your opponent has those pieces, because maybe they didn't collect those things because they went, these are terrible and I don't like this faction, like this part of the faction. So that's the weird piece of that puzzle. Like, would you even have enough points to field it inside of that, or would you just have to use random stuff inside the detachment that wouldn't get any bonuses from it? Well, you could do that. So then you'd kind of just experience, okay, here's basically playing my faction without any detachment rules. Kind of weird. So anyway, what do you think about the state of Warhammer 40k currently? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for just having conversations with me, and thank you so much for being a part of the Keepers of Nerddom. It really is exciting when we get together and get to have good conversations over board games, video games, etc. Thank you so much for hanging out. I've been Cody from the Keepers of Nerddom. Bye, y'all.